All right, we are live on the air. What's up, people? This is not the regular show, just for everyone that's tuning into this now. I just want to let you know this is not the regular show. There's some breaking news here. So I'm gonna pull up some
This
headlines.
is the couch special.
Yes, absolutely. So Babyface is joining me on this, and you can search the news right now. The headlines go like this: NRA gives ground on bump stocks. Okay, so, is this true? Is this real? Is it what the media is giving us? Can we believe what we're hearing? What do you think, Babyface?
I think the media is going to portray it to be bigger than it is. From the article, or not from the article. So the best place to go, instead of going to any news site, go to NRA ILA, read the statement for yourself. It's right there on the front. It's like the main headline right now. Read a statement for yourself so you can get your own opinion. Don't listen to anybody else's, even though we're going to give you ours.
Yeah.
But go read it for yourself.
And before
it's literally a paragraph. It's not that big.
Yeah, before we get all super riled up, I am a little bit riled up. I'll admit that.
Hank is riled up. I'm not.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a difference of opinions tonight.
Right. So I want to invite everyone that's watching right now to please share this. This is not our regular thing. We do have a regular show coming up. I'm probably going to go for about a half an hour. Then I'm going to stop, get ready for the regular show. But share this, click the thumbs up button, and make sure you share this on the social media. Let us know what you think about it. But in the interest of fairness and everything with the NRA, as Babyface said, let's read what they put up there. You guys can find this for yourself. It's on NRA ILA. Says NRA's Wayne LaPierre and Chris Cox issue joint statement. So this is from Fairfax, Virginia. In the aftermath of the evil and senseless attack in Las Vegas, the American people are looking for answers as to how future tragedies can be prevented. Unfortunately, the first response from some politicians has been to call for more gun control. Banning guns from law-abiding Americans based on the criminal act of a madman will do nothing to prevent future attacks. This is a fact. This is a fact that has been proven time and time again in countries across the world.
Hold on. Mark just jumped on and he's got his audio on.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's. Mark, you got to turn down your volume a little. Okay.
Headphones. There we go.
In Las Vegas, reports indicate that certain devices were used to modify the firearms involved, despite the fact that the Obama administration approved the sale of bump fire stocks on at least 2 occasions. The National Rifle Association is calling on the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, the BATFE, to immediately review whether these devices comply with federal law. The NRA believes that devices designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulations. In an increasingly dangerous world, the NRA remains focused on our mission, strengthening Americans' Second Amendment freedom to defend themselves, their families, and their communities. To that end, on behalf of our 5 million members across the country, we urge Congress to pass national right to carry reciprocity, which will allow law-abiding Americans to defend themselves and their families from acts of violence. So there you go. I just read the whole thing. That's from the NRA. Obviously, we all know that the media is going to take that stuff and spin it in their own thing. And, from me just sampling the headlines that are going out on that, basically those headlines are saying that the NRA is giving ground. So you think they're not giving ground?
I disagree.
Okay.
So I think this is, personally, I think this is a brilliant PR move. Because one, they're blaming Obama, his administration, for allowing bump stocks to be out there. So that's sort of dumb, but they're going to try their best to blame the previous administration. It makes sense. They are giving ground in the sense that they're asking the BATF or the ATF to review whether the devices comply with the federal law, which we know they do. They've already passed, and we know they comply with federal law because they don't turn. If you know what a bump fire stock is, you know it doesn't turn your gun into fully automatic. I can do the same thing by putting my finger through my belt loop. It's literally the same thing. This is just
I could do the same thing by just writing the trigger reset and
yeah, exactly,
just shooting real fast.
So we know they're legal. So this is making, in my opinion, this is making them look good, and from a PR standpoint, making them not look like the monsters that the media tries to portray them to be. So it makes them look like they're giving up ground when they really aren't, because we know that they're legal. We know bump stocks are legal. They've been approved twice, and they're approved because they have no bearing on the trigger pull. The problem here that should concern everybody is, well, see, this is the sentence that they have is vague. The NRA believes that devices designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulations. That's the problem sentence.
Yeah, what the hell are they talking about? I mean, you're saying right here.
That is very vague.
Yeah, you're saying there's no way in hell there's millions of these things that are out there, right? This has been out for years. Admittedly, I don't like them. I don't like the way they work. They work contrary to how.
They're terrible. No, they're garbage.
But that has nothing to do with anything.
No.
This has been out for a long time. The ATF has had lots of opportunity to say something about it or do something about it. If it was outside of the scope of what it should be, they just ruled against the auto glove, right?
Remember, yeah, they ruled against the auto glove because you can't have a mechanical device that's pulling the trigger. It has to be done by you. That's why the crank is fine, because you're cranking the trigger. Hooking a gun up, even if it's a semi-auto, you can't hook a semi-auto rifle up to a servo that's going to pull the trigger for you. That, I believe, is pretty well put into stone. You can't do that. That's why the auto glove failed. This doesn't do that. You are pulling the trigger. You're just using the action of the gun to help facilitate that. That's all it is. So it's legal. And they even, when the bump stocks first came out, if anybody remembers, they had a spring in the back to help facilitate it even better. And the ATF said, no, you can't do that. You can't have a spring because the spring is now part of the action, making it fire faster. So my question, they've already shown that this is perfectly fine.
Yeah. So my question that I would pose to anyone out there listening, to you, to Mark, the folks out there, then why the hell does the NRA suggest that the ATF should go take another look at it?
Because it gives them, because they know the answer before they're asking the question. Any good lawyer does that.
I don't
know
think
the answer before you ask the question.
I would never rely on that. I would never rely on that. The ATF could go back in there now with all this political pressure and go, yep, that thing shouldn't be there. You know, what the hell, what's to make them change their mind? They've changed their mind on lots of things that we've seen so far. The
thing that's going to happen here is, my guess is, yes, they'll probably go back and change their mind. Somehow they're going to go, no, we think this is illegal. And then one of the companies is going to have to take them to court over it, because it's very well written what a fully automatic weapon is and what a semi-automatic weapon is. And it's all based on trigger pull. So if they do, which I really think the ATF is going to go back and say, oh, no, we don't want you to have that. One of the companies that makes bump fire stocks, bump skis, bump fire, whatever, slide fire, any of those companies, or maybe all three together, are going to have to take the ATF to court over it, and then the court ruling will. Well,
so then the NRA is setting us up for failure. Let's, Mark, what do you think about this? Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Here's what I think. I think that the ATF's not going to walk it back because they know that they can't beat it in court. So there's not going to be an ATF walk back. There's going to be new regulation that post the ATF's original rulings will make these devices and then a wide range of other devices that fall into a bland category, all of them will be made illegal. That's what will happen.
Okay, and if that's the truth right there, then we're looking at you know, hold on, I'm going to mute you just so we can talk here. Yeah, okay, you did it. Yeah, so if that's the case, then we're looking at the binary triggers, the echo triggers. You could be looking at Geisley triggers, you know, that are just set up to have a lighter trigger pull and all that kind of stuff, or a faster reset. All those triggers could all of a sudden become illegal. Okay, so here's the thing about that. The ATF isn't supposed to be writing law here. So now once, go ahead. Right, I understand that. So if we have Congress writing a law, Democrats, liberals, gun grabbers, they already have all kinds of juicy stuff that they want to put into that law. We already see Republicans don't really have our backs on this. If we open the door to this even slightly and they get their foot in there, they're gonna push all the way through. That's what I'm pretty sure is gonna happen here if we even think of going in this direction.
Is going to take a hit. You know, everybody kind of thought it was going to happen after Sandy Hook and things like that. We had a pretty strong standing. Everybody, you know, we came together as Second Amendment supporters. Republicans and even several Democrats were unwilling to sort of get behind this. But you're seeing a totally different language, not only from moderate Democrats and Democrats in gun popular states, but also from Republicans. I mean, when these bump stocks are manufactured in Texas, the two biggest manufacturers, and a Texas congressman's coming out in support, a Republican congressman's coming in support, that should tell you right there, this is a different discussion. This is a different time. And I believe we've got a big fight ahead of us. This may be the beginning of the end.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that we might be having some audio issues or whatever out there because
we got it back.
Yeah. Okay. So and basically for anyone who didn't hear the whole thing that Mark is saying, Mark's saying that he agrees with me that this could be the opening of the door and like a signal of an entire sea change here in terms of what happens with the Second Amendment. And that's why I'm so against this. And that's why I think it's bullshit for the NRA to even come out with something like this. I don't think they fully thought this through. I don't think this is fully baked in. I don't think they should give even an inch to anyone to have hope. I don't think they should give the media the opportunity to start putting things out there and then more congressmen to start buckling under the pressure. And the next thing we know, these assholes can't even deal with healthcare, you know, and then the next thing we know, to make everyone happy, they push through some nonsense that we all have to live with. And in the end, if anyone thinks that, oh, well, so what? Well, you know what? When you are totally disarmed, you are at 100% the mercy of the government. I'm just telling you that. Then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you've opened the door for them to do to you. You know, just think about this. No matter what we do here, it's not these devices that killed people. It's a person that killed people. Okay, that's one. Two, the genie's already out of the bottle. So you can ban this all you want to, make all the regulation that you want to about it. A person who's decided they want to do maximum destruction on other human beings, they could already figure out how to do these things. You know, and then three, on top of that, you know, this is something that I was thinking about earlier and I posted about this. You know, when you have people like Jimmy Kimmel who, you know, who says things like the Republicans should be praying to God to forgive them for what happened here, it's really ironic to me that these are people who wholeheartedly push abortion. And we're losing more than 10 times the amount of human beings every day than we lost. Unfortunately, in Las Vegas, hey, I'm not happy about it that we lost those people, but we're losing way more human beings to abortion than what we lost on that day. And that's totally fine. So I don't understand how people can be appalled at murder in one thing, but be totally okay with murder in another thing. Now I know we could get all like religious and political about it. I'm sorry, when you create human life, it's a human life. You've sparked off human life. When you decide to destroy it, I don't care what makes you feel good and be able to go to sleep at night or look at yourself in the mirror. You've just destroyed human life. So it's like, there, to me, this really, really, really pisses me off, you know. And I just don't think that we should go for this. And I'm really disappointed that the NRA even put anything out like this. You know, I thought we were going to get a lot better out of them.
We've never gotten better out of the NRA.
So what are we doing? If we're not getting better out of them, if they do whatever the hell they want to, if they're getting our money, if they just don't get it, what the hell are we doing? Why are we supporting them? You know?
Whether you like them or not, they are the first line of defense. And let's be honest, as of right now, they're really the only line of defense. And that's why this is sort of alarming. If they start to fold, they start to go under, or even if they make a statement like this, that all of their, I won't say all, but a majority of NRA members don't like, we'll stop giving them money. Well, the second their coffers dry up, especially the NRA ILA, the second those coffers dry up, it affects us in a much larger way. So we're sort of between a rock and a hard place when it comes to this. Do we not like the statement? Of course not. Do we stop giving them money because we don't like what they're doing? Well, if we do that, we're going to have much, much more dire consequences down the road. So do we compromise a little now so that we can keep the giant behemoth in front of us? Or do we stick by our principles, stop supporting them, the behemoth dies, and we get run over? Because those are your choices as of right now. Because in the gun community, and you've talked about this, and we've discussed this ad nauseum, we can't get along with one another. We can't agree with one another. The NRA is the closest thing we have to a collective agreement within the community. Now, obviously, there are smaller organizations that are popping up trying to do better jobs, but they pale in comparison with influence that the NRA has. And it's years and probably decades before any of them will have that type of influence. So what do you do?
Yeah.
No, I'm with you there. I think the NRA is the biggest organization there is right now, and having a paradigm shift away from the NRA it might be necessary at some point, but it's going to be extremely painful.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you guys. I've had this conversation, as Mark said, with him. I mean, we're up sometimes late into the wee hours of the night fighting this out, you know, talking about it. I'm pretty sure you and I have had the same thing, Babyface. You know, this is why some of us are trying to change the leadership at the NRA and the people who are making decisions out there. We're trying to do that. You know, we're trying to support people. And, you know, sometimes you think you're gaining ground, and then shit like this comes up and you feel like, man, you're not really doing anything at all, because what the fuck? That's the way I think about this. These guys are just going to open the door. It's already been set in place that things like this are 100% legal. Why do you want to open the door for people to go in there and completely re-engineer what we know the Second Amendment is? You know, if I don't know if anyone out there heard what Reed said about this, you know, sunshine Second Amendment supporters, sunshine people who, when everything is good, they say they support the Second Amendment, and then the minute things get a little bad, a little bleak, they start giving up on it. If we give these guys an inch, man, they will be bending us over and fucking us all the way up the ass. I'm just telling you guys.
You and I, that's where you and I differ. I believe we at some point have to have a reasonable conversation, and you don't believe it's possible to have a reasonable conversation with the other side because you believe if you give them an inch, they're going to take everything. Where I have the stand where I think we should look at the legitimate things, and on the list of things that gun owners want, bump stocks is like fucking in disease. I mean, it's so far down the list of anything that's credible that the majority of us give a shit about. All three of us have just mentioned how we don't like them. They're basically worthless. You have to have tons of time to get them to operate properly, and even then it doesn't always go off like you want it to. And I think we have to pick our fights. And I think if we can come to the table and start to have a discussion and say, okay, maybe you guys are right on this bump stock issue. We're giving up something we don't even really give a fuck about, to be honest. I mean, let's just be honest. If we can do that to get the Hearing Protection Act back on the table, then I'm willing to negotiate. You know, in my opinion, you have to do negotiation is some giving on both parts. Otherwise, you're going to come to where we're at now, where you're going to have 51% of the people telling the other 49% they can't have their guns, because that's where we're headed if these types of things continue. And it's just historical. Look everywhere that's happened, Australia and all the other places, that after a tragedy, the fair weather, sunshine supporters, like you were just talking about, flip. And when they flip, now all of a sudden we don't have the support we need, which is why I think giving on some things that are just not that big of a deal so that we can get the things we want and then in the end strengthen our position are more important.
What do you say to that, babyface?
I'm with Mark completely. You can't do there's no such thing as a hard line in politics. You can try it, but it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And I think.
Go ahead.
Mark is like yelling, it looks like.
No, I was just describing to my wife Hank's reaction to you agreeing with me because he hates this line of thought.
Go ahead, babyface.
I think it's true. You can't have a hard line, and people are going to hate it, but no, I definitely agree. I think bump stocks are legal. I think they're perfectly fine. But if they want to go back and relook at the regulation and have the ATF tell them, yeah, they actually are legal, then fine. And if the ATF does decide to revert their decision on that, then the companies are going to take them to court because according to current ATF law, they're legal. And yeah, I definitely think that you need to give both sides. Both sides need to give. But the problem is the current Dems that we have in office aren't willing to give on their side. Feinstein is
you cannot negotiate with a madman. I understand what you guys are saying. If I was negotiating with you guys, that would be a completely different story. You know me. You all know me, right? So negotiating with me is not not that bad. If it was you, and if we were sitting down there, the NRA is saying in their statement that they obviously indicating that they're willing to give push if they allow reciprocity, right? You're mentioning taking suppressors off the NFA. These people are. There's no way in hell they're going for that. They're not going for that. How are you going to negotiate that?
I'd like to interject something real quickly. Yes, I agree. The Feinsteins and that ilk. They're right. You cannot negotiate them, but that's not what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to show the reasonable people in the American public, that 40% in the middle that aren't, staunch anti or staunch pro, that we can be reasonable people in the discussion about this. So if we can remove a bump stock that lets, an untrained person spray bullets in exchange for getting something that we all want with the suppressors or whatever it is, we can demonstrate to the American public on a whole that we're reasonable to deal with. Right now, we just say no to everything they want to do. And we seem just as unreasonable to them, to the normal American people, as Feinstein and their ilk seem to us. So you're just the opposite side of her coin with your staunchness. And I think we have to show the American public we're more evolved than that, and we are willing to talk about what's going on. Because something has to be done at some point to get this negotiation moving forward. Or, in my opinion, we're on the losing side of the battle because emotion is what wins, not logic. If I believed logic would win, we're going to win every time. But that's not what happens. Emotion is what wins with the American people. And I think we have to show them that we're willing, we're not emotionless, we're not, that we're willing to have compromise and have these discussions.
Okay, so I think where I don't agree with you to say that first of all, the company themselves voluntarily stopped selling them. Okay, the company stopped selling them. Of course, we are rational people. If all of us on this side that are gun guys, if we're not out there doing what Antifa is doing, trying to set up people, out like, going to protests, ready to set people up and hurt people and create violence and all that kind of stuff. That's not us. We're not doing that. The problem is these guys don't want to negotiate with us and say, okay, look, this thing shows that this was really horrible. We don't want to have these things. Let's take those off, and we're going to give you reciprocity because we believe what you say, that you should be able to go to any American state, to any of the 50 states. And if you have a license, if you passed the background checks and did all that kind of stuff, that you should be able to defend yourself in that state. They don't believe that. They're telling you they don't believe that. So you can say, okay, we're going to give you this thing. We'll give this to you. We'll give up something that the ATF has already said is okay. We've already gone with this for years and years. We'll give it up and we'll give you that. And then the thing that they're going to do, this is what's been going on for a long time. They're going to go, yeah, well, we also want this. And guess what? We want that. And in the end, we're not going to give you reciprocity or take suppressors off the NFA.
That's fine. I'm not arguing that we just voluntarily give up and then hope that they'll come through on their end. I'm saying we have to go to the negotiating table with goodwill and show the American public that we are at least willing to give those things up. No one sitting in this chair or in this house ever said we'll give it up and then trust that those retards will follow through. That's not what a negotiation is. But we have to offer something, and then hopefully they'll offer something in return. Then the language can be reviewed by the NRA, ILA, and they can determine whether or not it's in our best interest to agree to the compromise. But just to say, we're not going to give you shit because we don't trust you and you ain't never going to give us shit, we'll be having this same conversation when we're 107 that we're having today, and we'll still be fighting the fight because we're going to make no ground anywhere because both sides are going to say that.
You know what? Can I tell you something? Americans have, on our side, they have given in. They have given ground. How the hell do you think Obama got elected? Do you think Obama got elected by all the black people in America going to vote? Do you think he got elected by all the Democrats, all the liberals in America going to vote for him? That's not how he got elected. People gave way there. These guys did things. The healthcare bill that we're trying to change, the Obamacare bill, that's fucking up everything right now. I have Crohn's disease. I go to the hospital a lot, use doctors a lot. Lola works in a hospital. It's not helping anything. And we can't even fix that. We can't even fix that. We can't even make that better. And it's not that like, oh, it's going to make it better and then solve everything. We're trying to slow down this apocalypse. There's an apocalypse coming for us one way or the other. I'm just telling you that. At some point in America, within the next generation, we're going to have an apocalypse. The question is, are we having it 20 years from now, or are we having it 30 days from now? And people are out there trying to slow that down. And I think when it comes to the Second Amendment, this is what a lot of people, myself included, this is what we're worried about. Because if we've lost things over all the years that America has been standing here. We've lost things. So far as the Second Amendment, right? When they freed slaves, then all of a sudden after that came a bunch of laws that took away rights, and none of those things have ever been given back. So this is the thing this is what I feel about it. It's not that we're not reasonable. There's lots of things I think we're reasonable on. I don't give a shit what kind of drugs people want to take as long as they don't harm other people in the process of taking those drugs. I don't care who the hell, I don't care if someone wants to get married to their dog, it makes no difference to me.
But you must realize you're in the majority of NRA members with both of those statements. You are in the minority. The majority of NRA members do not believe in the freedom of drug use and do not believe in same-sex marriage. It's just that simple. Now, the majority of the people we hang around with do because we're reasonable individuals that believe in freedom. But if you think that the majority of the NRA members believe those two things, then you're just not in touch with what's really going on, because they don't. And I don't want to get into a discussion about that. I'm strictly talking about what we need to do about the Second Amendment and protecting our rights, getting what we want and having a reasonable discussion. I just think this hard line in the sand of this says what it says and that's what it is and we're not willing to do anything about it, that's fine. That's the way I think it should be. I don't think any of this should be up for discussion. I think it should be locked down. That's what it says we're going to go by. But the problem is we don't get to make that decision. The American public elects people to go to Washington to make those decisions for us. And if we continue to have this hardline stand, you're not going to have, you think you've lost freedoms now, you just hang on. It's going to get worse and worse and worse, which is why we've got to stop the flow by getting to the table with these people and having meaningful discussions on what we're willing to do and what they're looking for out of us. And some things we're just not going to do. I mean, obviously there are hard lines we're not going to cross. But if they want to talk about bump stocks, we can talk about that. Now, we're not going to talk about magazine size limits. Obviously, that's off the table for us. That's ridiculous. No one's going to talk about that.
So then what else are you willing to give up?
I'd have to look at what all they want. There are things that, as a gun owner, I agree do not meet the standard of the Second Amendment. Things like the 3-day wait list in the state of Florida, right, for a handgun purchase. Things like that don't meet the 3-day standard. But would I sign off on a 3-day wait list for a non-concealed carry permit holder for a handgun if it meant I could go and buy a suppressor over the shelf with just an FBI background check? You're damn right I would.
Okay, so let me ask both of you guys this question, because I know I don't want to keep doing this. Obviously, we've got another show coming up, and we can this could be a circular argument. Where in the last few days or in the last year have you seen those guys say that they're willing to give up anything to us? So
that's a toxic argument. That's a very toxic idea. You have to be willing to give somebody the benefit of the doubt. If they come to the table and say, no, we're going to do a hard line, then probably come back and say, fuck you, we're going to do a hard line too. Nothing's going to get solved.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say to you is, okay, we hear the NRA is like making an offer here, right? They're making a peace offering. What peace offering do you hear those guys making? Do you hear them saying, you know what, we should just let everyone in America enjoy the Second Amendment and the right to protect themselves and defend themselves and give reciprocity? Do you hear that?
We made the first move.
Okay. And
it's a game of chess.
So at
we
what
made the
point?
First move, now we wait for them to move back.
Yeah, but this is what I'm asking you guys. At what point will you guys come to me and say, yeah, it's clear and obvious that these guys aren't going to give up anything?
Go ahead, Mark.
The problem is that it's not these people aren't going to live forever. Feinstein's 84 or 85 years old. She's not going to live forever and be in office forever. And obviously the person that replaced her is going to be hardline too. My issue is I think we need to go to the American public and so they can see that gun owners are not just a bunch of beer drinking, redneck, KKK, swastika, because that's what they paint us in the media and everything else. And I think we have to go and be willing to take the first step. Now, I agree with what Babyface said. We go and we say, here's what we're willing to give up, but here's what we want for it. And here's the statistics, and here's the logic, and here's the reasons why we want this. And we present that to the American public. And then if the Democrats say, no, we're not willing to give up, then we can go and say, listen, we tried to have this conversation. We tried to give up the bump stocks and some of the other concessions that they wanted with the selling the, whatever else they want that we're willing to at least negotiate on. But if we don't do that, then I'm telling you, 5 years from now, we're going to be talking about the good old days where we could go and get what we wanted and do what we wanted. And there wasn't this legislation. I mean, I'm old enough and been in the gun community long enough that I remember the Clinton ban. And that was a bad 10 years. You know what I mean? You couldn't just go and get what you wanted whenever you wanted. And that's what's coming down the pike if we keep this hardline stand and aren't at least willing to make the first step. Listen, no one is saying that we go to the negotiation table and give them something for free. But we have to start somewhere. And if they say no, then we can fall back on the listen. We tried to do the right thing. We tried to have a discussion. But right now it's so easy for them to look at this video and go, well, Hank Strange doesn't even want to have a talk with us. He just thinks he's 100% right. You can't listen to that, so the hell with him. We're just going to put a bunch of new laws in. Where in the other case, they might go, this Hank Strange guy, he's at least willing to come to the table and discuss what needs to be discussed. That's all I'm asking you to do. If you don't like the deal they offer, no one's asking you to vote for it. I'm just asking you to at least try to go and negotiate a deal, brother.
Yeah, listen. I understand that. Mac, Military Arms Channel, came on here. He said to give the NRA another 4 years. They're making changes. I don't know if I personally would give them 4 years. I'm waiting to see what happens in the next set of elections that goes on. If anyone is looking at this and they're looking at a black guy that was born in a third world country, that's an artist, that's living in America, and he's for the Second Amendment, and they think that, you know, it's still the same way that it was, well, I don't know what else to do. I'm just saying that we do have to have a line. We do have to have a point. And I'll tell you why there has to be a point. Because if you're looking at these things happening in the world and you don't think the world is heading for the brink, then you're just going with blinders. There's a point coming in the world. You know, it's debatable if it's happening next year. It's debatable if it's happening in the next 20 years. I've got kids that are teenagers, and that's all still scary for me. And all I know is that as long as I've been living in America for the last 30-something years, I've been living here since 1984, we've just been giving up stuff.
All right, well, and I agree with that. But the counter to your argument is that we live in the greatest time to be alive in the history of the world. Now, we see a lot more bad shit because of Facebook and all the things that are going on. But, you know, you could have lived during, you know, Vlad the Impaler's time and, you know, during all the plagues and during when you shit in your back bedroom and it was running down a stream and behind your house. The very thing you just stated about here's a black guy from a third world country who is not, you know, that just shows me we're living in the most progressive and enlightened time that we ever have. Do we still have problems? Sure. But to think that we're on the brink of the world becoming worse than it's ever been, when it's actually better than it's ever been, in my opinion, all of the arguments you just made about why you're here and what you've been able to do prove my point. I don't think we're on the break. I don't think we're in the worst time ever. I think we're in one of the greatest times ever. Now, are we fortunate that we live here and we don't live in some of the more underserved and underprivileged areas? Of course, that's luck. It was lucky I was born here, 100%. I get that. But, you know, by this country being made better, we've made other countries better. Have we made some worse? Sure. We bombed some people for oil and, you know, had wars that we never should have had, of course. But we still live by far in the best time that the world has ever seen, at least in the recorded history, you know, we can go back, whatever it is, 14,000 years and look at. We certainly live in the best times we've ever lived. So I just, you know, I know you got another podcast to do and I could go on and on about this, but I really don't think we're in the end times and we're going to fall off a shelf. I mean, I just think we live in some of the best times that humanity's ever seen.
Okay, go ahead, babyface. I'll let you say something.
No, I'm stepping in to say we should cut it here. Right. And we got 20 minutes to get ready for the next podcast.
Right. Okay. Well, you know, I will cut it off here, but I'm going to tell you guys the reason why I think that these are dangerous times is because, you know, we are on the precipice of giving up more and more of our rights, and it'll domino on us really fast. I'm just telling you. I think things can change really fast here. So, okay, I'm gonna end this. I want to thank everyone for watching. We got a whole bunch of people watching, commenting, and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna cut this off. Maybe come back. You know, tomorrow's gonna be here. Tomorrow's gonna be here. I'm not giving you guys like dire warnings. Just think about what's happening and think that we're on the edge of giving up rights that we'll never get back. Okay, so I want to thank Babyface. I want to thank Mark for coming on. And, you know, being the yin to my yang, as he enjoys doing.
Well, I guess I'd rather be the yin than your yang.
Yeah.
I love you, brother.
Okay, love you too. All right, guys, go take a break and get something to eat or whatever you need to do. We're going to be back here in about 15, 20 minutes. Peace.